Hello, welcome everyone. Let me turn this back on. How are you? Oh, good to see you, Mary, Rosalind, Katie, and Alfonso and Cole. Um, Thank you so much for joining us tonight on our last EcoNet call for the year. Um, we we kind of had plans to have one of the folks that was arrested during the Sunrise Movement event, but they were unable to meet with us today. We'll bring them in the new year, but we wanted to still meet and talk and connect with everyone since we were unable to last month, and thought that just want to check and make sure that everybody has their warm or frosty beverages with them and are nice and cozy and comfortable. It's so good. I have some Tonkat coffee. Oh, I love the cup, Katie. Um, we we've been, rounding up the new year, so it's been pretty darn crazy around Move to Amend corners and the Ecology Network corners. Some of us just got back from DC as well, participating in some of the remove the regime actions and things like that. But you know, and just seeing the sparks or the flares that are going up there is really encouraging. And so maybe we could just start by having just like kind of grounding in the space. You can turn your cameras off or leave them on, close your eyes or leave them open. But I'd like us to kind of feel ourselves, our feet grounding, touching the earth or the ground wherever you're at. Feel your bottom spreading out. Let's take a couple of deep breaths together as we come into this space. The nights are getting longer, the days are getting cooler or colder. Not cooler, they're getting full blown colder. And let's exhale that all of the energies that have been building over the past year, the negative energies, and just taking in all of the energy of um, justice that we've been seeing folks engage in such a tangible way. Dismiss this. I have a beep going off every 2 seconds. Let's take another breath together and exhale and just feel the life giving energy of fresh, clean air, filling our nostrils, moving to our extremities. Let's take notice of our hands and our feet and where they're positioning and be grateful for how they give us what we need. Um, and holding our cups of coffee or our tea and our or whatever beverage we've decided on today. Take another exhale. And I want to welcome everybody as we gather here, and we honor that both the darkness we're moving from and the returning of light as we ebb ever closer to the solstice. And tonight, we just kind of want to reflect and connect and imagine the future that we're building together, as environmental justice activists, and as community members and as stewards of the earth. We all found this space because we know that that work is so important and that this nexus of connection is so important to where we want to be, and where we want to go. I do want to encourage or invite you to put into chat where you're calling in from. I Just to introduce myself, if anyone doesn't know who I am, my name is Jenny Spanos. I'm a national co-director with the Move to Amend Coalition. I came to this work through an environmental lens as a journalist covering the oil spill And I saw the devastation that it was causing not only in our natural world, but in our communities, and how oil companies and mega corporations, multinational corporations, have undue, unyielding power to control the narratives and destroy what we all hold so very dear. So shortly after that, Citizens United came down, and that's when I got involved with Move to Amend. As a volunteer for many, many years, I saw that this finally something that got to the root of the problem. So I really wanted to engage there. And a few years ago, we had decided um, that it was important to show that nexus between environmental devastation and catastrophe and corporate rule, and how that intersects with corporate constitutional rights and money considering free speech being considered free speech in our elections, and how that's devastated not just our environment but our democracy too. So that's a little bit about myself and how I came into this work. This meeting is going to be a little different. We're going to we always have an opportunity for folks to share what they're doing in their communities, but I'd like us to go a little further this time and really kind of share a little bit about ourselves, what brought us to this work to begin with, and perhaps maybe seeing what it is that what's inspired you, what's fueled your inner fire to stay committed to environmental justice work this week or this year. So let's start with that prompt. Um, we're going to maybe roundtable it and people can introduce themselves, let us know how you came to this work and what's fueled your inner fire to stay committed to environmental justice work this year. And can we start with you, Mary? I don't want to put you on the spot, but then after that, if folks can raise their hand when they're ready, or you could just popcorn it to somebody else, Mary. And you're on mute, so.
All right, I am from farmland west of Chicago, Yorkville, Illinois, and we have owned a farm for years, which my husband inherited from his parents. And just recently, we have now rented out the farm because we're too old to do that. So we had looked into having a solar farm on part of our farm, and it has been rejected. And that was very upsetting because we didn't think there was any real reason why, because we live far enough away from the towns. And then we had another solar farm owners, rather, of the facility want to use ours, and they came and looked at it and they liked it and they wanted to go through with it. And then, of course, there was the big deal of them cutting off all subsidies for solar. And so they stopped that. And now they're back. They really want to think about it and keep us hanging on a string because they'd like to eventually do it. And we think it's a good idea. And we also have a woods in the back and a group of, I don't know what group they're with. They have a plant specialist, an animal specialist, a soil specialist, and the generalist who all work together for the federal government in order to either make a better habitat for particular kinds of birds, clean out invasive properties, etc., like that. And then they were shut down. And I was getting pretty angry about all this stuff. And I have been in the No Kings and done the marches, but I really am not I don't want to be the person collecting signatures and just doing paperwork or going out lobbying. I want to do something specifically for the environment, but it's difficult here to know exactly what to do. And I wanted to see what you guys do. Does that make sense?
It makes wonderful sense. Thank you so
Okay.
much, Mary. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for what you're doing in your community, trying to bring renewable resources and
Hmm.
energy to your community. And I say that you're on the right track and you know exactly what needs to be done to really make a difference. Um, so thank you. And so just to for anybody that's just arrived, we're introducing ourselves and what brought you to environmental justice work, maybe what you're doing in your community, and we'll give some feedback uh, to anybody if anybody has any feedback for Mary or any ideas for Mary. I know that you know the oil industry is one of the most powerful, right? Ever since I put solar panels on my roof, my electric bill has gone up. They have been messing with me hardcore. It is unbelievable, and I wouldn't have believed. Well, no, I wouldn't believe it. So I wasn't surprised, but um, I want to open it up to anybody else that wants to share. I put the prompt questions in the chat so that anybody else can answer these or give Mary some feedback. Would be great. Open stack.
Stack Lawrence.
Lawrence, welcome. Yes.
Thank you. Congratulations, Mary, on your retirement or semi-retirement. I'm in the process of putting solar on my roof, and I went to a local junior college to learn how to do solar installation and design. And it's the best thing anybody could do is put solar on where they live or close to where they live or work, because that's optimal. You're making electricity. Well, the sun is making electricity right where you use it. And the next best thing is putting it, on your farm. Distributed electricity that will go to homes that are or businesses that are nearby. So that's pretty cool. I would try to work with both organizations at the same time. So you could improve your wildlife habitat. I'm a retired wildlife biologist,
Wow.
and farms are great places to create habitat. And then if you do the solar right, it can still be a farm. You can do vertical solar panels where they make electricity on both sides. They have a new type of solar panel that does that, and you can set them up kind of like little fence rows. Or if you have grazing animals or crops that can tolerate a certain amount of shade, you can mount them in the normal semi-horizontal position, tilted to the south, and you know uh, increase your productivity with some shade. So it just takes a little bit of work and planning, but I hope you can do it most of it yourself instead of letting a big corporation take over and put solar panels in on your farm. You probably won't be happy if that happens, because I know of other people that were not happy when that happened. But I spent the day in my wildlife habitat area, weeding and watering and watching all my wildflowers coming up. And we transplanted some trees because a bunch of cottonwoods grew up in one section, and we're spreading them out to put them where they'll look nicer and contribute to our little urban forest. And as soon as I got in the car, a friend of mine called me and told me about Al Green's um, uh, resolution that they voted on today in the House, I think it was, and had a lot more votes for impeachment. And it's just incredible if you get a chance to listen to that today and have them list off the articles of impeachment. And it's so powerful, and they're getting closer with every vote to getting it to pass. So hope you all get a chance to go on YouTube or the news for that today. Pass.
Thank you for that. I knew he was planning to
And
introduce them. We met him in DC. He actually invited Move to Amend Katie specifically up on the stage while he made the announcement that he was going to introduce the articles. To Lawrence, I know you're in California, and I know, Barbara, that you're fighting the city all the time for certain things. Do you have any suggestions for Mary on routes to go since they're trying to block her from putting creating a solar farm in her property?
yeah, I would just look at the reasons why. You probably already have a pretty good understanding of that. Every every place, whether it's within city limits or outside in a county jurisdiction, they have zoning requirements, and they're there for a good reason. You know, solar doesn't belong everywhere. Like I said, the best place for it to belong is right on top of buildings. So there's probably good reasons why not, but maybe not. Maybe it's reasons from spe corporate rule influencing the jurisdiction, and so it'll just take a little bit of work, and then come back to us though, and let us know the reasons why, and what you said and what they said, and we'll. The power of our group is that we have a lot of brilliant people. We even have a bunch of lawyers that work to amend our constitution, and yeah, give that a try and come back on the next call, the next
You're breaking up a
incoming
little,
call.
so gotcha. Yeah, you were breaking up a little, so I thought maybe um I'm trying to read the chat too as we go along. Yeah, that's a great
Are
idea. If
and just challenge their reasons, and then come back to us as a group, and between us, all of us brainstorming, we can probably find a solution.
Awesome. Thank you, Lawrence, for that introduction in those shares. I want to open it up to anyone else now. Again, the prompts are just to introduce yourself, what brought you to environmental justice work, what fuels your inner fire to stay committed to environmental justice work, and anything you want to add to anything that Mary or Lawrence has said or comment.
Katie Sack.
Okay, Katie, and did I see your hand come up too, Barbara? Or are you still having technical difficulties? Okay.
I wasn't planning on coming on a screen tonight, doing a lot of email follow up as I'm listening to everyone, and I feel so bad, Mary. I mean, I just, of course, they're not going to let you do a solar farm. Why would they let you do that? It's only good for the environment, and we had some property, and I wanted to do a hemp farm, and it was just the requirements were so incredibly difficult. There was no way that any person with a little bit extra property could do something like that. Um, but what brought me to this place is I have a long history. I lived through the oil spill. My partner was a captain of a fishing boat, so that brought me to this work. But then through this work, we had a wonderful series where someone spoke about PFAS, and come to find out, my nephew, who has extra chromosomes, tested positive for high levels of PFAS. Our communities like flooded with them. So that's something I learned here. And yeah, just I was so thankful whenever I found Move to Amend because I knew my time was valuable, my time with my family is valuable, and I didn't want to be spinning my wheels. I wanted to get to the roots of what's happening on so many issues that I care about. And so that's what brought me here. And I'm so thankful for you guys and so happy to see some familiar faces and new faces. So I'll pass. I'll stop rambling.
All right. I just tried to fix that for you, Barbara. Thank you so much, Katie. Just a little disclosure. I met Katie during um, Occupy. And well, actually, I had met her because she was hosting a fundraiser for somebody that needed a liver transplant. That was the first time I met her. I met her again about a year later after the oil spill and the Occupy movement broke out. And she and I slept in a city. We started, pitched our tents. We started occupying the space at MLK Plaza. And there was this big sheet that was created with the First Amendment written on it, and it was tied up on our pop-up. and this thing whipped all night long. The wind just kept whipping me in the head all night long. This First Amendment, this First Amendment sheet, and I'm like, oh, this is so apropos. But she and I have been working uh, together, trying to stand up for justice in all its various forms in this community since. And even when I left, we connected in different ways in different places, including New York and DC for actions. So um, I know her dedication is real. Barbara, were you able to unmute?
Yeah, finally.
Hey,
Yeah. Well, did we have a specific question or is it just kind of a general?
sure. You can choose to answer one of the prop questions or not. But introduce yourself, where you're at, what brought you to the environmental justice work, and maybe what fueled your inner fire to stay committed to the work through this year, 2025, when so much is, kind of working against us.
Yeah, okay. Well, I've been a Green since there was such a thing, and I came to move to amend through the Green Party, and David Cobb, who I met a couple times in person and in South Florida when I was living there. And I was part of Move to Amend Broward for quite a few years, and but I've been involved with social justice basically since my son was born, and I realized that, well, actually, since before he was born, and I realized that I was going to be responsible for the world that he was going to be growing up in.
Mhm.
And so I've been involved in different issues. When I was in South Florida, mostly probably 90% was social justice issues, surrounding Haiti and other those kinds of workers' rights and other kinds of things. And but then when I came to South Florida, and I mean, when I left South Florida, I came to Pennsylvania. I moved into this town where my son was living to be near him. I had no idea when I moved here what I was getting involved in. There's a refinery in the middle of town, and this was one of the first areas in the country actually to be major commercial oil producing areas. And this town was like the hotel down the street was owned by one of the big gangsters. I forget what his name was. This was the area everybody made money. Every other um, building, uh, house, home, backyard has an abandoned oil well in it. You can't walk more than 5 blocks in any direction. In the or well, still working. We have in the McDonald's parking lot, which is about 2 blocks from my house, there's a working well in the parking lot. Um, this is where I live, and it sort of hit me in the face. I didn't have much choice. And so uh, the 10, almost 10 years that I've been living here, that's what I've been working on, fighting the oil and gas industry and all of the mess. And right down the street from me is about 20 minutes away, you get into the Allegheny National Forest. And basically, the oil and gas industry has been given the subsurface rights, as they call it. There are the surface rights and the subsurface rights, and they're actually separate. Most people have no idea about this. And well, all of the Allegheny National Forest, the subsurface rights are owned by various oil companies. And so they drive their trucks through the forest, cut down whatever they want, get out as much oil as they want, abandon the wells, leave the infrastructure laying around everywhere in the streams, polluting, everything, and they just walk away. And even though Pennsylvania has amendment in their constitution that says that that we have a right to a clean environment and blah blah blah, it might as well not be there because they totally the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection in Pennsylvania, is one of the most corrupt in the country. And anyway, I'll shut up.
Yeah, I think that's the last thing I want you to do. Keep raising the alarm bells there. I don't think, when you think of Pennsylvania, you don't think, oh, this is a major gas producer. It's not what was in my thoughts for Pennsylvania, um, until actually learning more about it, through your advocacy. So thank you so much for that. Um, did you want to speak to what has fueled your fire to stay committed to the work this year, or just because you have had no choice, you've had to, when
There's
you know better,
really,
do better kind of thing?
exactly. It's like I can't just, not see. If I didn't know, it would be one thing, but it's uh, I take people out in the woods. My mentor, she was amazing and could remember everything. I mean, my memory is crap. So sometimes I have a trouble taking people out because I get lost because I don't remember where everything is all the time. But taking people here around town and out into the main roads that run to the national forest are pretty easy because some of these wells are right there on the side of the road. So you don't have to remember, you just drive by them and go, oh, there's one, there's one, there's one. It's kind of, we lead a little expeditions. We've had news crews out filming and people from the local colleges coming out and testing the stuff that's running out of these, wells into the local rivers. And where I am here, there's what is called the Tenungawat Creek. And most of all the little creeks around town feed into that, and that feeds into the Allegheny River, which feeds into the Ohio, which feeds into the Mississippi. So the stuff that's going into these little creeks in the middle of the woods here is eventually going into the Gulf of Mexico, not the Gulf of America.
That's right. Well, thank you for continuing to demand that they clean up their mess, and raising alarms there about what's really happening. I want to open it up for anyone else who would like to share. Rosalind? Oh, Mary, did you have something else you wanted to add?
Of
You're still
as
muted.
just
There we go.
as just in a comment about um, going back and how to keep going. Our inspiration was my daughter in fifth grade, who is now 45 years old, had to do a lesson in her class to weigh the garbage. And I thought I was pretty good. We took stuff to the recycling center, we were doing the little things and found just how deficient we really were. And I think educating the kids in a formal sense from the school, not just at your own home, because that doesn't always work because the teacher is the authority in elementary school, pretty much. And that has really spread out through my neighborhood. And our church has now started an entire organization for climate control and has become affiliated with the church and sends out bulletins on things to do and does a whole lot of collecting, recycling, moving things forward. We go to schools to talk to them in high school about the things that they can do and trying to prod them a little bit toward when they're going to be able to vote about what are they going to do about it. So I think that really helps.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I think that would help fuel my energy too. Definitely doing the work. does that for me. And there's been a little bit of research done. We have some curriculum based around amending the Constitution that one of our founding members put together. Her name is Dr. Ricky Ott, and I met her during the oil spill as well. She was a fisherman during the Exxon Valdez oil spill 10, 12 years prior to that. And she helped organize the fisher folks to do a blockade because they weren't cleaning up Prince William Sound. So they took all of their fishing boats and they blocked the gas tankers from going into Prince William Sound until Clinton was in office at that time. And he's like, what do those fisher people want up there? And even before that, both of you were talking about your children and how they were your inspiration. Her father helped write, was a principal in, so what is it called, the something spring. If anybody knows the answer to this, I'm thinking of something spring, the book that like they say helped birth the environmental movement. uh, you're on mute, Barbara, but if you know the answer, I feel like you do. I want to say Silver Springs, but I know it's not it. It's Silent Spring. Yes, yes, Rosalind and Barbara. I knew y'all knew the answers to this. Um, so that intergenerational really does helps fuel that. I definitely got inspiration from my mom and wanting to leave the world better for my children. So um, I want to open it up for anybody else to introduce themselves, tell us how you are, what's kind of fueled your inner fire to stay committed this year to the environmental justice work and justice work that you're involved in your communities. Maybe what brought you to the work. Just to read what Barbara put in the thing, she put 8 solar panels on her roof and thinking that it would be enough. It only does about 20% or less. We'll be getting more soon. Absolutely. Alfonso, I see you came on. Did you just come back or something?
No, I've been here.
Oh,
Just that my bandwidth sometimes struggles, so I'm off camera to facilitate that, and since I'm recording.
yeah, that's why I keep going
Um,
out too when it starts doing that thing.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I've been with Mutual Man for I think going on 8 years now, and I also came from an environmental activism background. I reside in Brownsville, Texas, which is the southernmost city in the state. Also, where Elon Musk decided to have his little pet project, SpaceX or Starbase. And so we witness a lot of corporate rule stories every day developing here firsthand. And like I said, the activism that brought me into this kind of work was the environmental sphere, and I feel it really connects to what corporations have been doing for a long time, bribing politicians and just keeping the status quo as it was because it was profitable to them. And even though it feels like an uphill battle every time I connect with people in the community, different organizations that I'm a part of, they make the connections themselves. So I feel that this is the right track for me. And just this year alone, I've been able to connect with many really cool organizations. Like Jenny was saying, we were hoping to have one of the participants of the Sunrise action that they had a couple weeks ago at Alligator Alcatraz, where around 30 people got arrested for blocking the entrance to the facility, and at least 3 of them were from the local chapter. Um, but unfortunately, they had some other things scheduled and couldn't make it. But I'm really excited about those connections, and also from the DSA group I'm a part of. One of the candidates who is really against what we have currently, which is LNG money coming in and now SpaceX money coming in. He's really speaking against those two things, raising up the high importance of abolishing the corporate takeover of our political at the local and federal levels. And he took the pledge. So those kind of small things, which at the end add up, mean a lot, and definitely keeps me wanting to do more and keep on pushing. Like I said, sometimes it feels like an uphill battle, but just this gathering alone, it's encouraging to see people from all over the country, um, and connecting the dots because at the end of the day, that's what it is. Corporations have a lot of interest in keeping the things as they are, keeping politicians in their pocket, and it is up to us to stand up to that and say enough is enough. And whether we definitely we need to step up and do more in the activism, like showing up on the streets, but also not letting go of the inside the belt way approach, which is the amendment. It's critical to keep those two things going simultaneously. So if we want to actually cause significant change for the long term. And I'm really happy about being in this part of this group and hearing your stories and how we brainstorm to troubleshoot whatever is afflicting us. It's really encouraging.
You, Alfonso. Yeah, I think you really keyed in on something very important. It's community, right? Is where you're finding your strength and where you're finding your fuel.
Yeah.
And, Alligator Alcatraz is here in Florida. They're in Brownsville, Texas. And not only did they see the intersection of what affects somebody here in Florida also affects them in Texas, but also the intersection of the private for profit prison industry and, this attack on immigration or immigrants also being an attack, on one is an attack on all of us, right? And we know that is not the root of our problems, but that's a divisive policy to drive wedges between people, living beings, and our environment, and the devastation that environmentally too that comes from creating something like a bustling prison facility in the middle of wetlands in in very sensitive, environmentally sensitive spaces. So um, I love that you know camaraderie, that solidarity, and that love that they are sharing for each other and for the environment by those actions. So I'm looking forward to hearing more about their experience when they do get here. And I want to open it up for anybody else. Thank you, Alfonso, for sharing.
Stack Lawrence.
Go ahead, Lawrence.
Yeah, I never talked about why, what motivates me to keep doing environmental work. And actually, really lucky to have been doing that most of my life. But once I discovered Move to Amend, it made it much more fun because instead of just working on local or regional projects, but worrying that, we could save some habitat or plant some wildflowers or native trees, but the whole country is, going to go to hell and the planet is going to turn into a giant oven. And the neat thing about Move to Amend is it's really strategic and it unites us all. We can't really protect the environment without protecting democracy first, because we can do everything that we can do and make advances. But without democracy, it just takes, corporate rule, corporate interests to destroy everything. And what I found is that locally is like a microcosm of the greater world around us. And on the local level, we're all fighting, our local struggles of corporate rule, where special interests, moneyed interests have way more power than the interests of our environment that supports us all and our relatives, all the birds and plants and flowers and insects and everything that we share our planet with. They all don't matter because they don't equal money in somebody's pocket. So I just absolutely love to Move to Amend and all of you on this call because it unites us all under an umbrella of system change where we can end the corruption, reclaim our rightful power of the people, restore authentic democracy. And I shouldn't say restore because we've never had it, but certainly restore something that we've lost, any semblance of democracy. And definitely do listen to the Al Green articles of impeachment because he talks about all this today, and today was a historic day. So yeah, just appreciate you all. Pass.
Thanks, Lawrence. I appreciate you too immensely, as you well know, and I am so excited to hear what how he rolled it out. We knew he promised that he was going to a couple of weeks ago, so I'm really excited to hear that. I didn't realize it came out. I've been on the computer all day, but it's been working in more siloed ways, and doing
And by the way, this stuff
volunteers.
doesn't really get out into the corporate media. So after you do watch it or listen to it, share it with your friends, share it with family and friends. And it's like an hour-long YouTube video. You might find a different clip of it, but it's really the first 5 minutes where they read off the articles of impeachment that are so powerful. And share that with all your friends and loved ones. We can make our own news. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's all right, Lawrence. Thank you for that. And yeah, we've gotten some folks that can really top up some reels and get that message out. So hopefully do that. Um, and thanks for sharing that with us. That is something that's inspiring. I want to open it up for anybody else. Rosalind, Carmen, Mark, maybe Cole, if we haven't heard from you, John, if you would like to introduce yourselves, maybe share why you came to this work or what's fueling um, your inner fire, if you will. I keep wanting to say fire because I'm sitting outside and it's a little chilly. Can y'all see the cold coming out of my mouth when I'm talking every now and again? I see it. I'm hoping that nobody unmute me. Okay, let's see if I can do that. I don't know why it's muting people. We don't have a mute control on it.
I don't know either. And I couldn't,
Apparently, I'm doing something
there
wrong.
was no place to raise my hand either. So anyway,
Awesome. We can hear you now. How are you doing, Rosalind?
okay, I guess, um, I, I got back into politics I've always been political, but, and always enjoyed the environment. My family went out, camping all the time. And so I have that's the only way we went on vacation. And so, I had a real intimate relationship with nature. And when I got involved with Occupy, then I still found that people don't understand their relationship with nature, and don't. If you mention problems with the environment, then they accuse you of not caring about people. At least down here. Now, people have some weird ideas down here in Alabama, but yeah, but you can't make them see the connection between uh, everybody being sick and the pollution, and they are gung ho for industry and all that kind of stuff. But um, so I got involved with Move to Amend and got started a resolution in the city council and found out how ignorant my city council members were about the outside world and and it was a real eye opener. And but still, and a lot of the left wing people who think they're left wing here still they don't make the connection, and they still think, oh, trade good, even if it's all um, allowing pollution and everything to happen and actually degrading our environment, and we're earning less than anybody else. And it's just it's really hard to open minds to that. But so y'all have made the connection between the politics and the environment, and so I wanted to be around people who understood that. So that's why I got into this group. I've been looking at lots of different groups. um, but I just really, I had a 1,000 square foot garden, intensive, no till, and since 1978, but don't have it right now. I want to get back to that, but I'm in a space that's difficult. Uh, so, you know, I thought when I got started in 1978, I really thought that if everybody composted, it would save the earth. And I still think, I still think that composting and anyway, that regeneration that happens with that recycling, you know, getting back into the cycle of life that way is key to changing the climate crisis. And I just think that a lot of people don't see the the imperative here, because I mean I noticed, since I do have this relationship with nature, that the extreme uh, degradation of the insect population, the bird population, the and it's just cascading, and it's just very scary. And then there's this administration that is going to, already did in their first administration, cause uh, a real downturn in our environment, and now they're going to do it even worse. And I just can't believe we're in this situation, but you got to do something. So,
Thank you. And yeah, that's still very important, right? It's something so simple as composting
oh
can
yeah, it sounds
create
simple.
those micro. Go ahead,
It
sorry.
is key. It is key. It's what gets us back into the cycle of life. With what we're missing is recycling and regeneration, and that's what completes the cycle. And actually, there's been a lot of research recently that shows I might have been right. So, but so even when I had to go take temporary jobs and stuff away from home, I couldn't stand the thought that I was not going to be able to compost some. So
I
like
love that. The research has proven that you were right.
I think so. I think it's getting it. But yeah, just anything that I can do.
Yeah, I love that. And again, you were talking about community. When I moved from Florida for, a good 6 or 7 years. And I
Mhm.
remember thinking, when I decided to come back, I'm like, here I'm kind of like one of a bigger crowd and I'm not as needed. But here in what they call Lower Alabama or near the Redneck Riviera, whatever you want
Oh
to
yeah.
look, that's
Oh
where I'm at, is Pensacola, Florida. So, and I lived here in Panama City, Florida, which is
uh,
really the nexus of the Redneck Riviera. But it's it is difficult sometimes. You think that you're kind of an island in the middle of this sea of closed minds and closed eyes and closed hearts, but I found that that is not the case.
blind
And the more
consumers is what
I
I call
connect with my community, I
it.
met somebody from near your area, actually, at the Safe EPA coalition, because they were trying to demand that the Environmental Protection Agency do their job, right? And regulate. We know better that they're captured, and they were learning. It was a new organization. But one of the people I met there, she what got her involved was she started seeing these dialysis centers opening up all over the place, and then her daughter got sick, and that's what kind of propelled her. She's like, all of a sudden, So why is this? So she started testing and she started trying to figure out what the heck was going on. And then she started raising alarm bells as she started making those connections. So never underestimate the power that you have being that voice there in Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah.
You're very much.
Alabama has the highest rate of kidney disease in the country.
So according to her research, and she's just a regular folk who decided she needed answers, and so she got in touch with universities in the area and other places, and just started like really shaking doors and rattling cages to get people to start testing. And like the 3M area,
Mhm.
we have a very shallow aquifer, very porous aquifer,
Yeah.
and we had Monsanto's and I mean DuPont
Mhm.
operating here for so long that it's considered some of the worst water in the country. So,
To
you know,
always vacation in St. Joe at St. Joe's Peninsula State Park has wilderness
yeah,
the last.
St. Joe, all of that is
Yeah,
DuPont subsidiary.
yeah.
After they broke up the monopoly, one of the breakups ended up being St. Joe. Of course, they still had their fingers in it and still do. But
But
yeah,
it used to be still so beautiful, and so we went scalloping all the time.
yeah.
Blue-eyed scallop. Somebody wrote a book about stalking the who is that? Yule Gibbons. And but we used to do that for that was my idea of vacation is but people make fun of you that it's subsistence vacation for camping and we get catch all our food and
I absolutely love that. Absolutely love it. Here in Escambia County, they used to have oysters as big as my head. You can't find oysters there now,
no you
but I
can't.
did participate in a oyster wall, setting up oyster walls so that spat would have something to cling to,
Mhm.
because that helps clean, right? And as
Now
long as we don't keep,
the scallops have been devastated by the trawling that messes up the seagrass beds.
yep. Yeah,
And,
we did that in conjunction. We installed the oyster walls and replanted native seagrasses and stuff to try to, you know, fortify the banks and stuff.
mhm.
I see you came on camera, Mark. Are you ready to talk? Am I keeping you? I'm trying to get you to, I'm clicking on the button to let, I don't know why it's muting anybody. I haven't done that. I'm sorry.
Uh, should have moved.
Mark Stack.
Go for it, Mark. You have the floor. And thank you
Okay.
so much, Rosalind, for sharing.
I'm just an average Joe. I'm a retired technology worker. I work maintaining computer systems my the overwhelming majority of my working life. And when it comes to the environment, I feel like we're in the environment and our government are in similar situations, that they're both under enormous threat right now. And that people aren't aware of how intense the threat really is. And for me, I know I'm working here in the Atlanta, Georgia metro area with Cole and others to try to help people become more conscious of this dilemma or this crisis. But when it comes to the environment, I look at my lifestyle and I don't really feel like I've awakened myself. Um, I I do a little bit of recycling, but not much. And I feel like there's so much that I need to know that I don't know, and I'm not sure exactly how to go about revolutionizing my personal life to be more in harmony with the nature that I live in. And I look at Native American spirituality and a Native American philosophy, and I see how their philosophy has been very different than the Western European philosophy that colonized them. That their whole, I mean, they've been living on this continent for thousands and thousands of years, and they were actually quite conscious of being in harmony with the nature that sustained them. And Europeans just came over and had a very different theological and philosophical perspective, and it was had to do more with capital and how to make money and turning nature into money and conquering nature as it was in terms of man against nature, whereas our native brothers and sisters never saw it that way. It was always that they were a part of nature and that they had to be in harmony with nature. And they did live very differently and thought very differently and still do. Um, so I'm just grappling with how do I become a better citizen of the world and a better example to my children and my children's children. And so that's just kind of where I'm at. I've thought about putting solar panels on my roof, but that's a dilemma between my wife and I because we don't really have that big of an electric bill, we have some of the cheapest power in the whole state, and so as far as getting a payback in our bill, uh, it would take me at least 20 to 25 years to do that. And my wife, I probably won't be around in 20 to 25 years. So my wife's not real crazy about spending the money to do it. But anyway, that's just a personal perspective. But I would do it anyway. I would do it anyway because I feel like I feel like it's the right thing to do. Yeah. Um, and besides that, I feel like I'd be in a greater position for reliability and power. So anyhow, I'm just rambling here, but my faith teaches me I'm of the Roman Catholic origins, and Pope Francis wrote a book, two letters on the environment, Laudato Si, and I can't remember the second one, but the follow up, where he says we're just not doing enough. Since he wrote the first one, I think in 2015, and he came back with a follow up, and he just said we're not doing enough. And so I agree with that, but I don't. I need to learn how to do enough, how to do better. So, and that's kind of where I'm at. And with that, I pass. Thanks. Thanks for listening to my rambling.
Thanks for sharing, Mark. I really
Yeah.
appreciate your perspectives here, and I think you make valid points um about, how sometimes it's how do we make those connections? How do we just being, right? And
Mhm.
recognizing our space in nature, in our place in nature. And the recycling, we found that here in Florida, in Pensacola specifically, that they don't really do the recycling. I break it all down, I take all the actions, and then we found out they're not really even doing it. And it's like, are you
Right.
kidding me? You know what? Um, I do find that I feel better about the fact that even though I'm not using as much electricity as I'm producing at certain points, that it's going to my neighbors and it's less fossil fuels that they're burning. So I don't know if maybe that will, that reality can help your wife like wrap her head around why it's a sound investment in the
So,
future for your children. Doubtful. She's got a lot of issues on her mind too, though. So, we're not, it happens. And I get that, even within our own homes, right? We have some pushback on some things that we know to be right. and then how do we take that beyond, and how do we change hearts and minds in those ways? So I think that kind of brings me to another question I wanted to ask. What is like one of the things that you want to leave behind this year, and one of the things that you want to carry forward? Um, and so I want to add this as another question, perhaps that might encourage Carmen to come off mute and talk, or Cole, if you're interested, or any of the other questions. I see Lawrence left his contact information for anybody. I guess probably mainly, actually, he said solar information, so I think that kind of hits the nail on the head for a lot of us. Even with Barbara's mention of $1,000 electric bill at this time of the year that she's racking up, and her solar panels only tapping into like 20% of that. Um, is there anybody interested in maybe exploring that, of something that we would like to leave behind this year, and as we look at to the future and envision what we want to carry forward? All
Jack
right,
Lawrence.
go for it, Lawrence.
Yeah, I would like to really focus, like we did around Black
An
Friday.
hour, baby. It's got to cook an hour.
I love cooking too, and I always leave my mic on when it's supposed to be off. Um, so I would like to leave behind supporting corporations that don't have our best interests. So, that's one thing that I haven't spent a lot of time on doing, is finding out which corporations to boycott and which, local companies or to support, and to everything else, maybe we can get at thrift stores or whatnot. So that will be a big goal of mine. But I just want to mention solar really quick. When I became dedicated to solar was during the Iraq War, the first Iraq War, and I was helping the peace movement try to stop that war before it started. And when it started, I saw it so clearly as blood for oil that I couldn't go to a gas station. I just had a way higher level of commitment. I couldn't go anywhere because I couldn't go to a gas station. But then I learned that I could buy a diesel car and run it on vegetable oil and biodiesel. And then I started driving again, and it was such a good feeling. And I went to the local community college and learned how to do solar installation and design. And I was just like the gentleman said on the call, I was so committed to doing it, even if it didn't make financial sense. So I designed my system. It was $14,000. I had 14,000 saved up, but all of a sudden, the California Energy Commission had a rebate program where, as soon as it got checked off, they sent me a check for $7,000, and my system paid for itself in less than 5 years. And now solar is about 10 times cheaper than it was then. It was like $3 a watt for solar panels back then during the Iraq War. Now it's 50 cents a watt for most solar panels. The highest end solar panels are $1 a watt. So these giant solar panels that are 5.5 feet long and 4 feet wide, they're put out 500 watts each, which they didn't even have back then. They're $250, and your system can pay off in less than a year. I recommend don't get a battery. If you have a small energy bill now, but you want to make that bill go away completely and live off of renewable energy, and it's so cheap just to get an inverter, not a hybrid inverter, just a regular solar inverter that sells your energy back to the power company during the day if you make any excess. But whatever your house is using will draw off your solar panels from the roof, and as long as the sun is shining, your whole house is running right off the sun. And if you get an electric car, then your electric usage will go up. But put up some more solar panels, and now you're getting all your fuel from the sun, and your house is running on the sun. And it's such a good feeling to not support greedy utilities and fossil fuel companies and just plug right into the sun. So if you have any questions, I just love doing this. I'm retired. I'll talk to you. I'll send you information. My favorite company to buy through right now is called Signature Solar out of Texas. I just bought my system there, and they'll even hook you up with installers, and you can get a bunch of estimates, because that's the main thing that makes solar so expensive, are these expensive installers. And sorry to take up so much of your time, but I love solar almost as much as I love nature. Pass.
Yeah, and I love that, Lawrence. Thank you for sharing. Would somebody else wanting to comment on that? I'm not trying to. Um, anyway, no, I love that too, and yeah, I mean, why not run everything off of it? You also mentioned, boycotting certain dupu dubious corporations, and I have a great deal in pride of the fact that I have not stepped in a Walmart in over 15 years. I haven't even driven in a Walmart parking lot in about 8 years, and and I have not missed it one little bit. I buy most of my stuff. If it's something that can be reused, then I try to find it at the thrift store. It just takes a little extra time to walk around and look at old treasures. I think that's a great way to start lessening your footprint, for sure, and something that you know I love. Mary, it depends on your climate for the solar to keep working through the panels. Are though the panels are improving all the time, and
And solar
you
panels
know,
actually make more energy in cold climates than they do in hot climates.
Did not know that. Learn something new every day.
The hotter they get, the more inefficient they are.
interesting. So I would like to leave Alabama behind and buy land where I can have my own. I can understand that. Um, Mark, I see your hands up. Carmen, I want to make sure that I'm giving you an opportunity to. So as soon as Mark is done, if you're interested, we would love to hear from.
Yeah, it automatically muted me. I think I was talking. Anyway, I wanted to just mention that just in the past few years, I don't know exactly how long, but it's in say in the last 3 or 4 years. It's a scientific and empirical data fact that renewable energy is significantly less expensive than fossil fuel industry. The fossil fuel industry would have you believe that we would end up wasting money on these because they're not efficient and they are too expensive. And that's a lie. That's just a flat out lie. Renewable energy has as um oh is it Lauren? No, just a minute ago was talk from California. What's his name, Jenny? Um, I can't think of his name. Uh,
Me,
he,
Lawrence?
Lawrence?
Lawrence.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. As Lawrence was saying, there's been just exponential strides made in the improvement of solar, which I think would have been even greater had there been greater support financially from the government to make that happen. Um, but nonetheless, it is. I just wanted to make that point so that people knew. The fact that people don't know that that wind, water, and solar energy and geothermal energy have a net uh, greater or lower price tag than fossil fuel energies like oil and gas and coal, et cetera. We're at a point where that's becoming criminal, and people need to know that that's the truth. And so, anyway, with that, I pass. Thanks.
Sorry about my disturbingly high use of emojis. I just can't get away from them. A picture's worth a thousand words, and sometimes I just need a big old or a smiley face. So apologies for that. And thank you for that. Mark. You're absolutely right. We know that, well, the first solar panels went on the White House under my favorite president, Jimmy Carter. Um, he never dropped a bomb. Did y'all know that? I just really adore that man. And not only because he put solar panels and didn't drop a bomb, but he was just a genuinely, absolutely good human being. But absolutely agreed. Propaganda keeps people from knowing and keeps people from not understanding. I was just having I'm having a lot of conversations with a really dear friend of mine, and I finally had to tell her, I'd never had her name's Jennifer. I'd never had Jennifer siding with fascists on my 2025 bingo card. So I would like to leave that behind. She's coming to spend Christmas with me, and I'm hoping to radicalize her in the 2 weeks that I have. I, I plan to work very hard at it. Um, and so, but I also recognize that she is he's a victim of this propaganda campaign, right? And it's hard to cut through all of that. I don't know how many times I've had to tell her, Jennifer, what has immigrants ever done to you? Why is that what you're focused on? You got to maybe consider that maybe they're telling you what to focus on so that you're not focused on things that really matter. And I'm hoping that, these conversations that we're having, they're mostly through text on a daily basis is like scratching the surface. But how do we get through that? So that's what I want to leave behind is the brainwashing that is happening, the propagandizing that is happening with, personally with my loved ones. I live in the South. Many of my family members live here in the South. And it's really hard to cut through that propaganda. um, and I wanted to bring attention to what Carmen said. I don't have a microphone and really don't have much to say. I've just been really interested in what people have been saying, and I love Jimmy Carter also. Misunderstood while in office, but best ex-president ever. Yeah, he was pretty amazing. And whenever a president starts to work against fuel interests, that's why we have to have a movement backing them up, right? When they discontinued oil reserves on the national forest and in our national parks, and now they're opening them back up. The current regime, and I say the current regime because almost every regime that gets into power is beholden to to corporate rule. It's just a fact. So I think it's Greg that says, I think of it as the system isn't broken, it's fixed, and it's working exactly the way they had planned. um, we need to unfix the system. We need to unrig the system and move that forward. We are starting to get close to the end of the call, and I just want to open it up if anybody has anything else they want to add as as we think about moving on to the next year. Um, Maybe if you can offer a blessing for the movement as we cross over the solstice threshold and what it would be, um, or just any other final thoughts. I will personally say that I am so appreciative of all of y'all. I find inspiration in all that you're doing and all that you want to do in your lives. And that's where I find my hope. That's where I find my inspiration. This is where I find my family that I choose and my community that I'm proud of. So thank you all for that. And I want to open it up for anyone else if they have any final thoughts or maybe even what superpower you have been able to tap into this year as we move on. So open stack. Well, thank you all. If nobody else has anything else they would like to add, um, I will say that, I'm excited. The winter solstice is approaching, and it always reminds us that even in the smallest spark, light grows, right? And so I really want to thank you all for sharing your energy and your honesty and your visions tonight, of how we are going to move forward in the coming year and the coming decade. And may the seeds that we planted here today take root in the compost, Rosalind, take root in the compost of the year to come. And much love and appreciation. And looking forward to learning more about what you're doing, finding ways that we can support the work that you're doing. Um, maybe it takes a movement there, Mary, and we can find others in your community that can help support making your dream of something so beautiful as to produce renewable energy for your community a reality. And, for Barbara to be able to trust the water and the air that she's breathing for these um, empty or these abandoned wells. And, Rosalind for um, people getting woke in your community to the realities of corporate rule and how, or maybe like you said, it's just leaving Alabama. But never underestimate your power there. And I appreciate you all very much. Much love and appreciation.
Thank
Happy
you
New
all
Year
so much.
and happy holidays.
Bye, y'all.